Finance and Budget Committee meeting that was to occur at 6:30 today will occur at the end of this meeting, immediately after. All right, if you don't mind, if you join me in the pledge of allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Present. Ms. Harrison. Here. Mr. Watt. Here. Mr. Robbins. Here. Mr. Todd. Here. Ms. Dean. Here. Ms. Cade. Here. Mr. Patterson. Here. Mr. Taylor. Here. All present. Informed. Approval of the agenda. Be it resolved that the Oxford Area Board of School Directors hereby approves the March 15th, 2022 agenda as presented. Do I have a motion? Second? Second. Any discussion?
I was just curious about the agenda. One of the things that we talked about early on was around the committee for education and, for education,
Curriculum?
curriculum. And I don't know if that was added to the agenda.
No, it would be added to the policy meeting agenda because
Oh.
that would be where that has to go to the policy committee to be added as a committee.
Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion?
Read our story today. Time for the team. So we're reading together. We're going to open up to the first page. By the time our EL students reach Nottingham, they've been in Oxford since kindergarten. They are solid in their communication skills. Therefore, we focus on building and strengthening their reading and writing skills, as well as acquiring academic language. Remember, read at your own pace. Try to translate every word when you can listen to the word. Turn your page to young people. Stop finger following. Here we go. Maria is a very busy girl. I should hear all of you. She studies hard and gets good grades in school. I personally provide 3rd and 4th grade EL newcomer students with a 2.5 hour of intensive reading instruction 5 days a week to increase their academic vocabulary, listening skills, writing abilities, and doing all this while building their reading fluency and comprehension using our new National Geographic curriculum.
Hello and welcome to Hopewell Elementary School, our 5th and 6th grade located in the Oxford Area School District. Please join me as we take a look at our amazing programs.
So here in the Hopewell Library, we try to make this a welcoming environment for all of our students. We teach students how to locate information, how to find information, how to evaluate websites, how to evaluate resources, which is super important as more and more information is put out into the world. Our students need to be very good at discerning what is trustworthy and what is not. I also work closely with our language arts.
I like the Emergent Treehouse series. What do you enjoy the most when I come and teach lessons to your class?
Online conversations with our teachers, we use that to inform our choices regarding MTSS. First, I pull Tier 2 students and they come into my classroom and I provide direct instruction with them. And we use this for a variety of reasons. I can either directly support core instruction, I can introduce students to concepts that they have not yet seen in the classroom, so sort of a pre-teach. I also can spiral back and address things that are perceived as gaps by the classroom teachers. And I also focus with them on word problems, and that's traditionally a source of difficulty for our Tier 2 students.
You should have in front of you this curriculum chart that we passed out earlier, and you should have some post-it notes.
In the lesson you see today, the students were working on the text-dependent analysis, which is higher level critical thinking, where students take the pieces of a text apart to analyze it, to respond to a question, and then put those pieces back together.
And let's see if we can find an example of where the author tells us what that means truly was. And on page 258, I think it's very close to the example of where the author tells us the character.
So now it's going to tell us about 2 different teachers, and that's what we're going to jot down on our note. Since we have middle level elementary, that's why we look at students with comprehension strategies, making sure understanding is building, and also continue to know their fluency, so that they're interpreted and graded. And then once they leave here, they go over to Pennsburg for 7th and 8th grade, and there's also a specialist there who will be passing along all our information, and she makes those same decisions out to grade as support. All right, are you ready to close?
Fifth grade, we do the basics like alphabet, conversational expressions, days of the week, colors, numbers, 30. In sixth grade, we get into months, right, date, a little bit more complex expressions. What I love when I have fifth grade is when I see sixth grade and build on that. So that's for most students, this is their first experience with foreign language.
First though, let's get back to our vocabulary.
Here are the words that we were studying this week.
All right, what we do here is we try to prepare our students academically, socially, culturally, to eventually have all of their courses in the general ed classroom. Our levels range from newcomers who are brand new to the country to students who are ready to exit our program. Specifically, we have a group here this morning that are at the expanding level of their English language proficiency. So
they can be in 4 ensembles: theater band, 5th grade band, 6th grade band, and jazz band. And over the 2 years, we develop skills that take them to Pennsburg Middle School. Throughout the experience here, they have lots of chances for performance opportunities. We've got 2 winter concerts, 2 spring concerts, a caroling tour for a select group of singers and players. In April, we had an Arts Appreciation Night, and at the very end of the year, as an incentive for all the hard work they do, we go to Hershey Park for a adjudicated competition trip, and just to have a little bit of fun at the park.
Welcome to Pennsburg School. This is our second week freedom, where we are transitioning our students to be prepared for high school.
We have over 21,000 books here in the library. We also use Macadamia, where we have 2,600 audio and ebooks available. Our students do have a 1-to-1 iPad ratio, so they can check out books even in the comfort of their own home. We're also really excited to have the 3D printers here. Right now we're working on a project. The students have been really excited to start, playing with the teacher, programming. We also have a makerspace area here where we focus on STEM concepts, both in-house, but we also have makerspace available on the iPads with a lot of different choice boards. So this is a one-stop shop for a lot of different areas and contents.
In the blank document on Teams, you're going to type this. You're going to find the total, then you're going to find the average. Make sure when you find the average, you don't include what? Yeah, make sure you don't include the sum and the average, otherwise you'll double your average. In 7th grade, students mostly focus on Word and PowerPoint. And this helps them in middle school, high school, and careers because they're learning how to make good documents and good presentations for high school and college. And in 8th grade, we cover Excel. And of course, this is great for efficiency and will help in all careers and in college, but it also helps them for advanced progression to high school in the foundation. This is important because we're going to formulas now, and that's when you go to high school, the advanced PCA, you're going to take those formulas and start crafting them.
Well, it teaches me how to add way faster. It teaches me how to graph.
Are you ready to graduate from the Excel iPad to Excel on the PC?
So the 7th and 8th grade classes taught here at Pennsburg were based upon the prior knowledge the students have gained at Hopewell in the STEM courses taught there. Here we take and try to build a foundation to lead it into the high school class. Our classes are all hands-on activity-based courses which provide students with an opportunity to expand their mathematical, scientific, and engineering skills. So throughout the experiences, they have different opportunities to design and build different products and projects within the class. Through this construction process, they have the opportunity to use different types of tools, whether it's dealing with electric energy, and we're working with building circuits, or working with tools like voltmeter and ammeter. We also get involved with writing code and doing the revised segment in that particular course. In our 8th grade class, we're using power equipment, such as the drill press, the mill drill. This all provides the students with an opportunity to experience things that they may have never done before. So it broadens their horizons, trying to prepare them to get into the realm of maybe going into industry or engineering and get them ready for the high school. We do follow the Project Lead the Way initiatives throughout the program, trying to get the students involved in all these hands-on activities is the best way to get them involved in the engineering process. And it does provide them with the opportunity to expand their own personal interrelation skills with one another through group activities. And it also gives them that self-esteem component where they help to feel to see that they can do better through their efforts in the course. This course tries to develop those skills at the bottom. It helps reduce that drag and turbulence. Right? Yeah.
Just to see.
Kids in the music program that come from Hopewell to Penns Grove, we like to kind of connect the dots a little bit. So go down and visit the students, see how they're doing, take them from what they should already know to where we want them to be here. And then start to bridge the gap between us and high school. So we work on creating notes and rhythms, continuing stuff they did at Hopewell, and then getting them to play piano so they're prepared for the piano classes at the high school.
They also have a guitar class up at the high school, so we prepare them for reading notes on staff. Just work on that for a minute, going from A to C. So we just received a grant from OEF for a ukulele program here at Penns Grove, which is just such a valuable instrument in my opinion. It's very simple to play. Just off the guitar, and they already have those guitar skills, which makes learning ukulele that much easier.
I've learned how to play an instrument. I've done a lot, made friends at band. I think that band is a great experience for students wanting to learn new disciplines.
It was ways to like kind of learn new skills that we didn't know before, and like make friends with people that like enjoy the same things that you do.
He's made me feel more confident about my singing and has made me realize that I should learn over it. I do think it's always, if all that matters is I'm doing what I like to do.
First of all, obviously you can see the continuity of educational services that I've seen here from grade 1 through grade 8 and previously, obviously, K to 12. So we can see that there are wonderful things happening at each of our schools. I want to take this time to, again, thank the teachers, the students who participated in making the video. I particularly want to thank Mr. Perry Minko and his television and video class who actually put this all together. So, very thankful. And thank you for the time for us to be able to present this to our
Financial reports, Mr. Tango.
Be it resolved that the Oxford Area Board of School Directors hereby approves the following financial reports: General Fund Treasurer's Report, Revenue Report, Expenditure Report, the Cafeteria Fund Treasurer's Report, the Capital Projects Fund Treasurer's Report.
Do I have a motion to approve financial reports? Second? Any discussion?
We're looking at, I'm not sure if I remember anything here, but just back in math, looked like over $250,000 we sent to Cybercharter. That's about right. I don't know exactly.
Just in this bill list, or suggested?
Yeah.
Yes, that would be accurate.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Opposed? Student activity and athletic officials accounts, Mr. Tenga.
Be it resolved, the Oxford Area Board of School Directors hereby approve the student activities and athletic official accounts for Penns Grove School, the Oxford Area High School, and the athletic officials.
Do I have a motion to approve the student activity and athletic officials accounts? Second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Opposed? Payment of bills, Mr. Tenga.
Be it resolved that the Oxford Area Board of School Directors hereby approves payment to the following bills for March 2022. The General Fund, $6,697,631. Cafeteria Fund, $97,327. And the payroll distribution of $1,789,222.
Do I have a motion to approve payment of bills? Second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Opposed? Report of Intermediate Unit and Technical College High School Representative, Mr. Robinson.
Again, my wife, secretary, emailed all of my report out to all the board members. I do have a few extra copies if anyone in the audience is interested. I can give you one or two. Basically, at our last CCIU board meeting, we spent most of the evening talking about goals, about the goals that CCIU has. The first goal, they narrowed it down to 4 separate goals. And I'll say a little bit about each one of them. I could say a lot about each one, but I know we don't have a lot of time. So, goal number 1 was define CCIU's educational role. And that, the IU represents 12 school districts. We have 12 school districts in Chester County. And each school district sends one person from the school board, from their school board, to the IU. And that makes up the IU board. And we take care of as much business as we can at that level. 12 school districts, they have 12 board members. They have about 85 to 87, it varies from year to year, programs that students can go in a special program, maybe woodworking, maybe nursing, maybe hairdressing, different programs, 85 different programs. And that involves around 80,000 students across Chester County. Go up to the 3 technical college high schools. We have one at Phoenix Bridge. We have IU Technical College High School at Brandywine and one at Pickering campus. But at any rate, goal number 2, they work with legislation a lot. They get involved with politics, and they try to win over as many political people and get their bills passed that will benefit students' education and help out the different counties, school boards in different counties. The IU is right now tracking over 300 educational bills and resolutions, and then they have held 9 legislative education committee meetings across Chester County in the past year. Goal number 3 was to foster CCIU's culture and brand. The main issue, main thrust last year was on mental health. They hosted countywide mental health meetings, which included all of Chester County's legislative delegates and the county commissioners. Goal number 4 dealt with finances. A unit of that size is very concerned about their finances. Last year, they obtained $35 million in grants to use to benefit their programs and Chester County. Not only do they apply for grants, they encourage and try to encourage other schools in Chester County. Our school, for example, they assisted and continue to assist with the coordination of grant programs, which total $127 million here in Chester County. We were one of the schools that took part in that grant program. We applied for grants, and that's part of the $6 million I hear people talking about from time to time. Okay, that was 4 different goals. The rest of the evening we spent talking with Joseph Labisky. If you were here last month, Joe Labisky was a speaker that came here from the IU and talked to us about their budget and so on, and what Oxford would be involved with their system. He talked about $63 million that was part of the IU's budget for the core and occupational education budgets, and we will be voting on that tonight. I believe it's on over in agenda somewhere, but it's on tonight's agenda, so we will be voting each. The IU has their budget, and they approve it. The board of directors there approve it for them, and then they have to go to each one of the 12 school districts and have the school districts approve the budget for them also. And then the last point I had on my report was a reminder. The school board appreciation dinner will be held on Thursday, March 31st at 6 p.m. at the Technical College Penix Bridge campus. And Oxford has always had a good showing there. I would hope that each board member sitting here will get their spouse and come down on Thursday, March 31st, and represent Oxford at the appreciation dinner. It's free, there's no cost involved, and it's really great food. I can attest to that. So keep that March 31st date open, and that's the end of my report, unless there are some questions.
No questions for Mr. Robinson? Do I have a motion to approve the report of intermediate unit and technical college high school representative? Second? Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Report of Chester County School Board's Legislative Council representative, Mr. Claus.
Yes, we do not meet until March 23rd at 7 p.m. We'll be meeting at the IU on that date. In front of all the directors tonight is just the announcement that the legislative briefing is on Friday, April 22nd. I will be attending that. I have not sent to the board members a note tonight, I promise. A thrilling survey for you to take out, to fill out regarding anything that you would like brought up in that meeting. So please take the time, because They do some fun things where they send out, they recently sent out a scoreboard, and we have 0 across the other districts, so we'll try and get to 100% maybe if I send that out. But the only thing I wanted to mention, I'll try and give an update after we're there on the 23rd. It is budget season. And this was as of February 8th, but there was $300 million in the budget for the 100 most underfunded districts in the state via the Level Up program. And I do not know what's happened since then in terms of the state budget, so I'll try to get an update for us. We were identified as one of those districts in Chester County, I believe, along with Coatesville. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Claus. Do I have a motion to approve the report of Chester County School Board's Legislative Council representative? Second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Report of liaison with Oxford Parent Teacher Organization. I was informed earlier that there is no representative here for that. Report of Athletics and Student Activities Committee, Mr. Patterson, along with the report of Facilities Committee. If you don't mind.
We did meet. Mr. Price gave us an update on the athletics, and there were 4 wrestling events that were held in our building over the month. Spring sports began on March 7th. Spring sports for Penns Grove will start on the 14th. Emails were sent on 2/11 with the updates, and again on 2/22, followed by 3/7. So if you're interested in getting your children into the sports, please get them signed up. For facilities, we did meet as well. Mr. Madron gave us an update on some of the issues that are ongoing with the high school, the hot water issue. He's still working through that. They have had an engineer that came out, gave him a suggestion based off of his findings that did not resolve the issue. So he's still troubleshooting that problem. There are plenty of facilities that are open to use the bathroom and wash their hands. There's just 2 units that are currently closed down, and he is working diligently to get that fixed. As far as the locks on the lavatory bathrooms themselves or the stalls, the update that I received when I inquired about those being broken is that it's an ongoing issue with kids kicking the doors in when other individuals are in the facilities. They try to stay on top of it and will continue to do so. So hopefully we can get parents to talk to their kids to stop kicking the doors through. And the same goes for ripping the soap dispensers off the walls. We do our best to stay on top of it when it's reported, but again, it's not something that is negligent due to the district or the maintenance department, because the stuff does get checked, but it is being destroyed by our own youth. So hopefully we can get that to stop. And that concludes the facilities report. Any questions?
Do you know how many bathrooms are impacted by that? And now the weather's getting warmer.
I'm sorry, say it again?
I'm sorry. Do you know how many bathrooms are impacted in the high school buyout? And
2.
It's just 2. The weather getting warmer, do you think?
And one actually has.
It's like 4.
One actually has hot water to it, but it doesn't meet the proper temperature.
Thank you, Mr. Patterson. Report of Finance and Budget Committee, Mr. Tenga.
We have a meeting scheduled, but it's going to be postponed until after this meeting, so if you want to hang around for that town meeting to fund it, otherwise you'll hear about it next month.
Report of Policy Committee, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Report of Policy Committee, Ms. Harrison.
We did meet, we went over the policies that are later on. We went over the policies that are in the agenda later on, so they will be up for the adoption.
Thank you, Mrs. Harrison. Report of Board and Service and Board Goals. Report, Student Representatives Report, Ms. Milburn.
For March, for Jordan Bank, the students and staff celebrated Read Across America Week, which ran from February 28th through March 4th. And Jordan Bank had spirit days each day of the week, and there were themed activities around Dr. Seuss and Miss Burnett's honors English students, also paired with the kindergarten classes to read and lead activities. The reading specialist, Miss Todd, secured a professional grant from the Oxford Educational Foundation to have children's author Julia Cook, who visited the school virtually, to read a few of her books and talk with students. Teachers continue to receive professional development from math solutions to support their instruction using math in focus. The Lancaster Barnstormers mascot Silo visited on Monday, March 14th to kick off Jordan Bank's reading incentives. For Elkridge, they'd like to congratulate all their February students of the month. Students continue to earn B tickets through the school-wide positive behavior plan. Elkridge celebrated Literacy Week, and one of the highlights of the week was the English honors students visiting and reading books. Elkridge also kicked off their reading initiative with the Silo Key mascot, who visited on Monday. And then during the rest of March, Elkridge students and staff are looking forward to Agriculture Literature Day and Poison Prevention presentations. For Nottingham students, staff, and faculty celebrated random acts of kindness during the week of February 14th through the 18th, and each day was assigned a kindness theme in which students participated by dressing for the theme of the day. Nottingham also celebrated Read Across America Week, and honor students came to Nottingham to read their classes as well. The school community is invited to Nottingham Elementary Fine Arts Night on April 21st from 6 to 8 p.m. There will be a student art exhibition, a walk through the seasons, portraits, and love. And there will be a live performance by the Nottingham Band, Orchestra, and Chorus, and live music by Jazz Alive. Local artists will provide live art demonstrations, and there will also be food trucks. For Hopewell students are participating in their own version of March Madness. Homerooms school-wide are calculating their miles at the track during mileage, and they're practicing acts of kindness. This will take place throughout March and April, and the theme is Miles of Kindness. Students continue to earn stingers for showing respect, responsibility, and promoting a safe school environment. Hopewell Spring Pictures will take place on March 21st. The administration has conducted data meetings with teachers and have met with students in class meetings to review school-wide rules as well as expectations. Hopewell's Early Act Club is collecting jelly for a local food cupboard as a community service project. And Hopewell students celebrated Read Across America Week and had a Fancy Friday Spirit Day along with dressing as their favorite book character. And there are pictures on the Oxford website if you'd like to see. And Hopewell is encouraging all students and parents to check Power School for assignments and grades. For Pensgrove, at Pensgrove, spring sports are gearing up. They'll be starting March 14th. Read Across America Week was celebrated by dressing up as students' favorite book character, and there was a book selfie contest run by Mrs. Golden, the librarian. On March 3rd, 48 students participated in the National Assessment of Educational Progress in History and Civics, and the students earned an hour and a half of community service for their efforts. The Student Council is planning a school dance for April 1st. Early Act is selling socks to support World Down Syndrome Day. And on March 21st, Pensgrove will be rocking their socks to spread awareness for those with disabilities. And for the high school, on Monday, February 28th, the high school hosted a scheduling and Act 158 night. The event was well attended by the community and provided access to guidance counselors and school representatives to explain the scheduling process and answer questions for students and families. It showcased many of the district partnerships and clubs, including ECA programs with Cecil College and Thaddeus Stevens, Project Lead the Way, FFA, and many of the other opportunities that await OAHS students.
There was an Act 158 presentation in which OAHS administration reviewed the PDE pathways for graduation and also explained how the district is supporting these students. Shrek the Musical had 3 successful showings this past weekend on March 11th, 12th, and 13th. The high school would like to congratulate all members of the casting crew who put together another successful musical. Jordan Kane was recognized by Daughters of the Revolution on Monday, March 7th at the Westminster Presbyterian Church in Westchester. Her guidance counselor attended with Jordan and her family to recognize her accomplishments and celebrate her pursuit of higher education. Members of the National Honor Society are currently getting ready for a dance marathon. Students will be collecting money to help fund research for childhood cancer, and the members who register for the marathon will dance for the kids on April 1st. Tim Lamb was selected to receive the Widener University High School Leadership Award on March 31st, and this award embodies Widener University's commitment to develop and inspire leaders to effect positive change. Lastly, the high school would like to congratulate the swimmers AJ Hinckley, Brian Topmiller, Noah Topmiller, and Alex Garahalis, who are competing at stakes this week. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Ms. Milburn. Report of school programs, Mr. Woods.
Thank you and good evening. Tonight and over the next 3 board meetings, we're going to do grade span report. And we're going to start our grade spans with Dr. David Hamburg, kindergarten principal, will be followed up by Mr. Matthew Hovanek, Elkridge principal, grades 1 and 2. Dr. Hamburg.
Good evening, everyone. I wanted to take you back just a little bit to January when Dr. Billings-Jones shared the learning path for kindergarten. You had seen the kids back then at around November, December. But what happens when the kids haven't entered kindergarten yet? And that's where I'm going to begin this evening. Very, very proud of our program that we're running for the Oxford Area School District in Northern Mag. But one of our biggest challenges is getting to know the kids prior to them coming into the school. It takes a lot to balance classes and to make sure that we're giving every child what they need when they come in. So we start off a level field by administering a Bracken School Readiness Assessment, which tests basic skills like colors, letters, numbers, counting, comparison sizes, and what have you. We are finding that our program that we're running is more robust. So we will be looking at something that will help us meet what we're asking students to come in with at that time. Some kids come in through the early intervention program. The early intervention has already started. We've already begun meeting with students who are in early intervention around the area with our special education department. And for those of you who are unfamiliar, early intervention looks at birth through toddler ages and looks at things like physical, cognitive, communication, social, emotional, and self-help. So those categories are addressed in early intervention, and some of the kids come into us having an individualized education plan, and some are exiting the program. So a wide gamut. Those meetings will take place, actually, we ended our last one just at the beginning of March. So we're already planning for those students coming in for the 2022-23 school year. Additionally, we do a lot of work with our local preschools, and that will help us to coordinate programming with them so that we are advancing the students when they come into kindergarten. There are so many transition activities that happen between January and August, the start of school, that the kids are going to participate in, so that when they come into us, they are they feel safe, they feel ready. They're ready for some fun, but also for some learning, and their parents to say.
When students enter school, some of their very first experience in the school setting are dealing with the basic rules. Respect, responsibility, honesty, kindness, and giving best effort. This and this, I'm not sure. We'll see. All right, we're going to roll it back then. All right. So some of the so all of those school rules, school goals, you've heard when Ms. Milborn read her report. They follow pretty much all the same, increasing just slightly in each grade level with their meanings and such. But in this picture, in these two pictures, you can see our school goals coming to fruition with the kids earning ping pong balls or kindness balls that get put into that little pail that the one student is holding with Buzz the Bee, our mascot, who also, throughout the grade levels, goes from friendly with Buzz the Bee to the Hornet at the high school. So we do start off with the friendly Buzz. So the students then earn ping pong balls that get put into that big pail at the left-hand side of the screen, and students earn reward days. And you can, again, refer back to Ms. Milborn's report. Hopewell is having has had a fancy day. Jordan held a fancy day today, and was a reward day. They had candlelight lunches and all dressed in their professional outfits. So if you follow me on Instagram or Twitter, you can see those pictures there. So within the first month of school, staff are involved in completing beginning of the year assessments, both in diagnostic and benchmark assessments for English language arts and for math. So once the kids come in, after we've built the classes, then they go into their classrooms and we begin assessing using current data to meet with the teachers through multi-tiered systems of support, MTSS program, where we meet with the school counselor, the reading specialist, the ELL specialist, English language learner specialist, the speech pathologist, the psychologist, and myself to determine the levels of support for each student to be successful in the grade level. And we continue those meetings really focusing on data that we collect all throughout the year, but specifically beginning, middle, and end data, so that their students are well prepared for first grade. Students, by the time they leave us, are expected to be reading basic sentences, one to two sentences, and sometimes paragraphs. When they leave us, they're expected to know addition sentences, single digit, sometimes double digit. So it's much more than even 10, 15 years ago. There's a very big push, a very big academic focus for the kids. And each school does have their own MTSS team that addresses the same things that our kindergarten level address. So if we're looking at our curriculum and programming, when kids come in, and they're coming in at all different levels, as someone phrased very nicely, it's a heavy lift for our teachers, for all of our staff, to bring the students up to proficiency so that they're, again, prepared for first grade. Therefore, we include everyone in helping us get there. We have an initiative for literacy where students are able to hear a book being read to them at least once a week. We use a community member. Tonight happens to be about an hour ago. The students received their link to what Dr. Billings-Jones has already featured, Turn the Page Tuesday, and this week's reader is Nancy Wearsack from Lola's. So you can tune in to see that. The kids hear a book, they learn a little bit more about the community in which they live and the people who live there. Under the direction of the superintendent and Dr. Billings-Jones, we provide meaningful and differentiated professional development. One of the things that was mentioned again through Ms. Milborn's presentation was Math Solutions coming in. They've been working side by side with our teachers to really talk about the communication of math and having the kids speak about why they've come up with a certain solution or how they've arrived at a certain answer that they're given. So a lot of math speak, if you will, and also differentiated learning centers or learning stations that the teachers run that, again, help address the areas of need for the students. We've got a lot of awesome things going on in the district. I want to thank you for your support, and I also want to invite anyone who wants to come see the great things happening at Jordan Knight. Please come over. I'm very proud of you. So thank you. Mr. Rebecca?
Thank you. So we build on adult grades in first and second grade, what happens in kindergarten. We currently have 410 students, first and second graders at adult grade, 185 first graders, and 225 second graders. Some things that we're really focused on, our main focus is our school-wide positive behavior plan. Just like George Bank was, be as our mascot and be your best is our motto. We celebrate responsibility, respect, honesty, and effort, and we teach that in the classrooms, the hallways, the cafeteria, the playgrounds, the bus, etc. Students earn B tickets daily for their classroom hives. There's monthly incentives. Some of those include, in recognition, some of those include water bottles, wristbands, tokens. Our Students of the Month, as Ms. Milborn mentioned this evening. And we are currently, on the B ticket, we currently have one profile of Buzz. We're currently working with the high school art department to showcase some of their artwork, our students' artwork at the high school, to create more profiles of Buzz. So this slide's entitled, What's Always Going On? I mean, we always are instructing in our reading, our math, our writing, our science, and our social studies, as well as our special areas of music, and library, and phys ed, and art. But the bell there is the original bell from Millbridge School. And as you saw in the video, one of the things that always goes on each day is students have the opportunity to ring that bell to start our day. But there are many other things that are always going on in our building. We have MTSS meetings to support student growth. We are always involved in data meetings with students to make sure that we are improving instruction and also planning for their needs. Students are always using technology, as you saw in the video, as well as our teachers. And I will tell you, when something goes wrong with an iPad, whether it's not reading a QR code, we hear about it. So they're down making certain that we get it fixed as quickly as we can, because that's an important part of their day. Our school counselor meets with small groups of students throughout the week, working on social and friendship skills. We team up with the social worker, the school district social worker, and watching school attendance improvement plans. And she's also an integral part of our weekend backpack program. That backpack program allows students over the weekend to receive non-perishable goods they can take home with them and allows them to fix meals over the weekend. We also always have our elementary student assistance program running. We team with Devereaux, Behavior Against Health, so that we can offer in-school sessions to some of our students who typically will not be able to be transported to their location. And finally, when you look at that whole list of things, like our attention is always to the individual students, and we promote learning, lifelong learning. So this is a slide that in February we followed the Winter Olympics as a school. And for 2 weeks, every school was assigned a country. And so each classroom followed a specific country that was assigned to them. They learned about the Olympic rings. You see the rings there in the ceiling that the kids made. They learned about the athletes, the winter sports, and they tracked the country's medals. So that bulletin board on your right there shows every country, and it shows the gold, silver, and bronze medals that they tracked. So every day the kids would walk past us on their way to lunch, and they were able to see exactly the medals that they tracked for their country each day and compare them to others, and then of course we offered many questions mathematically that they were able to solve. As you've heard so much on Ms. Milborn's report and Dr. Hamburg's, Read Across America, Literacy Spirit Week was a huge week for us. We celebrate all things literacy. This picture shows a couple of our second graders, and they read a book about their favorite author. The book was entitled Pizza and Taco, and they're dressed like Pizza and Taco to represent their book. One of the other days that we celebrated was we asked kids to read a book about their different culture or country, and they were to wear something to represent their family's culture or hometown. So in this picture you see some of our first graders, and what's depicted is Mexico, Honduras, Philadelphia, Oxford, Illinois, and Ireland. And probably one of the highlights of the week is when our high school students come and visit us. They read a book, and they also provide an activity to our first and second graders. On the left is two of the high school juniors reading to one of our first grade classes, and on the right is one of our high school seniors providing an activity to one of our second graders. And what are we looking forward to? Envirothon, we currently have 19 students and two advisors involved in Envirothon. Yesterday we kicked off our regional incentive with the Lancaster Barnstormers baseball team. We had a visit from Silo, their mascot. The kids basically are accumulating minutes read at home. This gives them the opportunity to earn a baseball ticket so that they can go in May to one of 3 games, and the ticket is free of charge. Right now our teachers are working with the Math and Focus coach, discussing the Math and Focus program that we're using, getting suggestions, giving feedback, and what the next steps look like between now and the end of the school year. We have Agricultural Literature Days coming up, where we have a guest speaker come in and they read books to our first graders. Also, we have poison prevention presentations that are coming through the Penn State Extension. We will be having a mobile ag lab visit. If you've never seen a mobile ag lab, it's like a 32-foot trailer that comes to the school. Kids get to rotate through the trailer in classrooms, and there's lessons related to agriculture that they get to be hands-on, they get to be part of. This year, both of our grades will be going to Pumpkin Park Zoo. So last year, our second graders did not get the opportunity to have a field trip. So this year, both first and second grade will be going to the zoo. And finally, thanks to OEF, we're going to be getting new garden beds. We currently have some garden beds, but they need to be replaced. So
thanks to an OEF grant, we are actually getting metal raised garden beds. We'll be the first school to have these. And we're working with the Chester County Food Bank. They'll be coming down. They actually are interested in installation. We're also working with the FFA at the high school to help us with that installation. And we'll be growing different things throughout the spring, summer, and fall seasons. This last slide is really a thank you to the Oak Ridge staff. This is the current bulletin board when you enter our lobby. March is Women's History Month, and these are the ladies that make it happen day in and day out at Oak Ridge. Special thanks to some people who didn't make the board, Mr. Raffetto, our physics. Also our Mr. Dave, our custodian, and our SROs, Mark and Dan, who help support our bill. Takes a village. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Hamburg. Thank you, Mr. O'Bannon. That concludes my report unless there are any questions. And you may be able to look for some questions.
If I may, Dr. Hamburg, you had mentioned that there's a pre-K, you're working with some pre-K schools in the area. Can you elaborate on that a little bit on what you're doing?
So, for the past, it's been about 10 years now, I've met with all of the pre-K directors. We try to meet once a year and go through what Jordan Bank is offering. And we were able to, you'll hear in our comprehensive plan that's coming up on the 29th, I believe, that we were able to work with our larger preschool feeder schools on influencing some phonemic awareness work that we need for the students to come in to kindergarten. So they've adopted that piece and are working with their students on that specific.
Okay. And you also mentioned the early intervention and identifying those in need of the IEP program.
Yes.
Is that part of this program as well, or is that separate? Are they being identified in the preschools?
So they could attend a preschool. Oftentimes they attend it's called early intervention class. They take place, one is at Jordan Bank, several are at Technical College at Bridge, so they're kind of all over. But we kind of work with the Chester County Intermediate Unit to facilitate the transition of those students. Thank you.
Just a point of clarification. So, to your question, Mr. Patterson, we have Dr. Hamburg working very closely with the preschools so that they know where to go if they identify students, people running the pre-K schools. They know they can go to Dr. Hamburg, they know they can go to other resources that they have a vehicle to get that identification put forward.
Okay, so this is technically our program.
It is not.
Thank you, Joe. Old business, Mr. Cooney. New business. Recognition of persons who requested to be placed on the agenda. Mrs. D. Whiteman.
You are therefore charged with 18 PA CS section criminal conspiracy 903. A person is guilty of persons to commit a crime if with the intent of promoting or facilitating its commission. If he agrees with such other person or persons that they or one or more of them will engage in conduct which constitutes such crimes, or an attempt of solicitation to commit such crimes, or agrees to aid such other persons or persons in planning or commission of such crimes, or of an attempt to solicit to commit such crimes. Members of this board have also conspired with non-board members to harass and intimidate anyone who speaks out, seeking the truth about such conspiracies. You have nothing, no choice but to report you to the Pennsylvania Insurance Department. An example of what your insurance may state is that you will be deemed to be aware of and have knowledge of an occurrence of wrongful acts of the date that your legal department or risk management department, claim advisors, or any of your elected, appointed, or employed officials receive notice of such occurrence of wrongful acts. Results in the establishment of a reserve or would reasonably require the establishment of a reserve for ultimate net loss under coverage Part A or loss under coverage Part B, which equals or exceeds 33% of the relevant retained limits that involve any of the following: class action or punitive class action. You may not realize this, but each of you is personally liable for a predetermined amount stated in your policy for damages per claim. In your policy, each occurrence is one claim filed against your policy. Each occurrence carries a predetermined deductible that you must pay prior to the insurance company covering the rest of the damages. That means you could lose your house, your car, your job, your retirement, etc. You have taken bribes from the illegitimate and corrupt government of the corporate of the United States Incorporated. As of December 15, 2021, the U.S. Incorporated is officially bankrupt, and according to Supreme Court Justice Thomas, no longer exists, thus reversing the 1871 Act of England and allowing the U.S. to go from maritime law to 1776 law. Your flag is not the correct flag. Americans are discovering how our federal government has caused harm both to themselves and our nation around the world, other nations around the world. The American people need to know that many loyal Americans are working to expose the unlawful actions of this corporate federal government and all associated corporations and people involved. The Ninth Amendment grants the people unenumerated rights. The judiciary has a duty to recognize them when federal or state governments infringe upon those rights. You are in violation of many state, federal, and international laws as laid out in the intent letter I have provided you. I do not wish to do harm. My goal is to free our children from the tyranny imposed by this board, our local, state, and federal government. Our children were born with the inalienable right of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. These fundamental rights are endowed on every human being by his or her creator. They were born with the freedom to exercise them as they choose. With your actions over this past year, you have taken these rights away from them and their parents. Now it is time to take them back and hold you all accountable. Thank you.
Jill Gallagher.
Good.
Good evening. I'm Jill Gallagher, East Nottingham Township, and tonight I'm going to do something different, and I'm going to read a letter from another member of our community who would like to speak but would like to remain anonymous. Sorry. Hello. I am a concerned citizen that has been following the harmful turn of events with poor leadership on the school board and their personal agendas that have tarnished the Oxford Area School District and have negatively affected our children and our community. I have several rebuttals to the many issues and controversies that have been brought up recently, but since many have bravely chosen to stand up and already address them, I would like to focus on the one that I have the most personal experience with. During the last meeting, a resident spoke about her personal opinions regarding mental health and how she believed it was not related to education and it doesn't need to be funded. I want to make sure that the board hears a statement in opposition to that, as it is inaccurate and could not be further from the truth. It also serves as a sad example of how the stigma surrounding mental health can get in the way of those that need help getting the care that they need. I have personal experience with what can happen when a student that does not have adequate support for their mental health conditions and how that directly affects their education. Before I had professional and medical care for my condition, I struggled for years and I was at risk of being held back. After receiving a proper diagnosis, therapy, and medication, my life was completely different, and I was finally successful in gaining confidence and healthy self-esteem that comes with being supported and validated. When the school can coordinate educational needs in conjunction with mental health caregivers, students succeed. I am proof of that. Now that I have the educational accommodations that work with my limitations instead of against them, I hold a 4.0 GPA. If you are truly concerned about the students and their test scores, let's start with making sure things like mental health care is readily available to all students. There may be children that have limitations, but still need to be evaluated to receive accommodations and support. They may be unfortunate enough to live with a family that does not believe mental health impacts anyone's education. And that makes it even more vital that they can access that care at school. They may have had a toxic, abusive family and need to be able to ask for help without parental consent, because it is a safety concern. My fear for the sake of the children is that those adults that argue against mental health services in schools are trying to hide something that they are responsible for at home. And those kids need help regardless of the stigma and shame that have prioritized over the health of their children. You can easily find articles and statistics covering the increased mental health concerns of young people over the past 2 years due to the pandemic. There is no good reason for denying funding that can help impact the student community in a positive way and help increase access to mental health care. The things I have observed as an obstruction to making sure the students have what they need to succeed in the Oxford Area School District is due to ignorance, prejudice, and personal agendas. That has no place in our community or our schools, and anyone opposed should take a good look at what their motivation is, because it has nothing to do with the compassionate care of the children in our community, and absolutely nothing to do with education. Perhaps with more educational opportunities, we can also help the younger generation fight the real enemies in our midst, stigma, ignorance, and prejudice. And so on behalf of someone that didn't want to speak tonight, I'd like to share that, and I would like to ask that you do consider the funding that has the mental health care. I think that these kids really do need that, and they are really struggling. I have kids in high school and middle school, and I have kids that didn't start yet, and I see it that all of them are hurting from being home 2 years, the pandemic, and everything that's been hurting. So please, when you go vote on this funding, please keep that in mind. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Ronnie Lutz.
And I'm here to serve the entire board, Superintendent David Woods, and Brian Cooney. All of you have violated to date at least 13 state, federal, and international codes. You are not looking out or addressing or engaging the stakeholders. Superintendent Woods has violated state federal requirements for the SRP funding application, which required stakeholder engagement prior to funding application. Superintendent Woods withheld the
and from the OSD School Board and stakeholders the details of the funding usage and the required health and safety plan that accompanied it. Superintendent Woods suggested 2 health and safety plans, one to comply with the required federal government ESSER 3 funding, and one for the stakeholders that make us feel better. He also conducted a misleading engineered survey of the OSD district's parents regarding the funding. The survey was designed to guarantee agreement and did not inform or ask the parents' opinion about the health and safety plan that is federally required that is attached to this funding. Conducting the survey after the funding is an attempt to hide violations of state and federal requirements. You're all guilty of interfering and withholding public records. Also, in revising the existing homeless policy to allow for the current 21 high school homeless students placed for the 21-22 school year by Homeland Security and any future additional students by Homeland Security. This has nothing to do with our immigrant families that are in our community and that come to our community. These are placed, government placed. And we are concerned about being underfunded, and yet you're allowing the government to impose more strain on the budget and the children that are already here. It makes no sense. And the fact that Superintendent Woods believes that he should have sole responsibility over this population of students is unwarranted and beyond the guidelines. He works for the board. You work for us. Conspiring with politically driven community members to discredit, harass, and intimidate 2 newly elected board members, their families, and at their places of employment. President Tai promoted the created racism narrative to the community through the release of an official statement with the, from the board with his signature. Misleading and withholding information and choices from the stakeholders and the parents. Forfeiting the constitutional rights of the children and the parents and the stakeholders through this funding and through this health and safety plan. We weren't asked, and the children certainly weren't asked, and the parents weren't asked. Practicing medicine without a license. Practicing psychiatric medicine without a license under the guise of the funding and the health and safety plan. Employing and allowing intimidation and fear promotion tactics on the children to ensure compliance with the health and safety plan. Inflicting emotional, physical, psychological injury on the children through the plan and the funding. Inflicting financial hardship on the families of this community, hardworking families, through this funding and this health and safety plan. Mr. Kloss for injecting political division and antagonism at school board meetings, for disrespecting Mrs. Case publicly, for losing his temper and swearing at a school board meeting, and for voicing his obvious support of the governor's budget that would cut tax dollars for charter school children. Time's up.
It's just so exasperating because our kids are being used as political warfare here. My grandkids have suffered for it. My grandkids have suffered for it. I don't like it at all. My 10-year-old granddaughter came to me and told me she was bothered And so, after I thought about it, why do I ask her what bi meant? Well, she thought it meant that she had friends that were boys and friends that were girls. I know this stuff is being taught in the schools, in the classroom. We have happy holidays that we're in high school. But anyway, children are so precious. They come here, they're so innocent, they're so resilient, they're so full of love and grace and innocence. All you have to do is sit there and listen to a child and make eye contact with that child, and they will tell you so much. And no matter what they're going through, all they need to know is that somebody hurt them. So while I'm sitting there, because I really didn't know what I was going to say, but this just came to mind, Matthew 18 on the Bible. Oh God, it's awful to do that. How about if I come up here and say, I will not stand for that, while my little doilies on my head flying around.
Please, Kristen. And everyone gets a chance to speak.
Matthew 18. About the time the disciples came to Jesus and asked, who is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven? Jesus called a little child to him and put the child among them. Then he said, I tell you the truth, unless you turn your sins from your sins and become like little children, you will never get into the kingdom of heaven. So anyone who becomes as humble as this little child is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven. And anyone who welcomes a little child like this on my behalf is welcoming me. But if you cause one of these little ones who trust in me to fall into sin, it would be better for you to have a large millstone tied around your neck and be drowned in the depths of the sea. What sorrow awaits the world because it tempts people to sin. Temptations are inevitable, but what sorrow awaits the person who does the tempting? So if your hand or foot causes you to sin, cut it off and throw it away. It's better to enter into eternal life with only one hand or one foot than to be thrown into eternal fire with both of your hands and feet. And if your eye causes you to sin, gouge it out and throw it away. It's better to enter eternal life with only one eye than to have two eyes and be thrown into the fire of hell. Beware that you don't look down on any of these little ones, for I tell you that in heaven their angels are always in the presence of my heavenly Father. So I just want to leave you guys with that, because as you use my grandchildren as political weapons and to continue this terrible charade, you're harming all these children in this school. I just want you to know that. And you have someone to answer to greater than the parents of these kids.
Harold Delinquent.
Good evening. I am also serving the board. I am just out of words at this point. I am out of words and explanations of everything is there for everybody to see. I just feel like at this point talking to the board and at this point just wasting my time, wasting my breath. I know all the information is there if you want it. It just simply takes away the constitutional rights of the parents and the kids to sign away anything medical, to sign away anything you're teaching the kids that's not science or math. I mean, we have no right teaching the kids what kind of sexual positions they want to be in and who they want to do it with. I mean, I identify people with being a person. I don't identify with them. I never want to know what they're doing. And I think it's a disgrace that we're even considering this. I mean, the LGBTQ plus, whenever anything is that broad, and just like the homeless policy, just like the when anything's that broad, when it doesn't explain what are we talking about here? What is the plus? And the other explanations, a couple of them are a little concerning too, but We're bringing this into our schools? Are you kidding me? Really? That's all I have to say. Thank you. Doug, had you said?
I'm sorry, I really didn't mean to rush by you.
Doug Henderson, East Nottingham Township. Before this year, I probably only attended a couple of school committee meetings in the past few years, and now I've attended the last 3. I just took some notes from various meetings and that I wanted to discuss. Lots already been said about ESSER, but I did make the comment, I'm disappointed to find out when Superintendent Woods addressed us 2 months ago that the survey he sent out to all the parents that I filled out, I don't know how many filled it out. I filled it out, I gave answers, I thought about my answers, gave the answers, and come to the school committee meeting and find out that he sent the application with the allocation for spend before the survey came back from the parents. So that survey was just sent out to make us feel like we had some input into the spending of the money. The application was already out the door. And that was from Superintendent Woods 2 months ago. All of the controversy that's been happening since December, January timeframe, part of it that I feel has gotten lost is a point that Mrs. Gaze was trying to bring up relative to the test scores. Now, at the time that she did it, I don't think it was in the right context because it was regarding a policy with homeless kids. But the point of the test scores, the assistant superintendent made a presentation to us 2 months ago, 2 meetings ago. And I found out something that was very interesting. I presume for a statistical analysis that kids are put into subgroups within the testing data. And the criteria is if you have 40 kids or more that are part of a subgroup, then you can statistically group them into that subgroup. And for Oxford, she went through, I believe, a period of 10 to 12 years, number of different slides, and we had 4 subgroups. IEP, which are kids with individual education plans, EL, English learners, ED, economically disadvantaged, and HU, historical underachievers. And on any given year, we had approximately in the area of 240 students. So the fact that we had 4 subgroups tells me there's 160 kids minimum in the subgroups, so there's a maximum 80 that aren't part of the group. And to President Ty's credit, he questioned, can we get the 5th slide that shows the 80 and how it compares to the other 4? Because if we say that these 4 subgroups aren't impacting the overall scores, we're sticking our head in the sand. Because I didn't understand the graphs when they were put up there, so I went and asked the assistant superintendent on a break in the meeting. And I said, I see the red bar, and then the next time you show the slide, I don't see the red bar. And then I see it again, and then I don't see it, I don't see it, I see it again. I said, if the number of kids in that subgroup drops below 40, is that why the bar disappears? And it was no, it's because no kids tested proficiently in that subgroup. That's why the bar disappears. So if 0 out of minimum 40 kids, none of them test proficiently, that's 17% of the kids being tested. That has to impact your test scores. So we got to figure out why and help those kids. It's not about, listen, you can view the video from 4 months ago however you want to view it. I didn't view it as an attack on those kids. I viewed it as a cry for help. Let's help those kids. A lot of people attack Mrs. K's stats, wherever she got them from, and I don't know if they're accurate. Right after I viewed the video, I went out and I just tried to bring up the same stats. I tried to Google and say, hey, can I find this, can I find that? Now, someone online attacked saying, oh, there aren't 500 school districts, there aren't 700 school districts, which was what Mrs. Case had said. What I heard is say 700 and something schools. There are 500 school districts. There are many more schools than the school districts. So I think we need to look at that. Last thing I'll say is, I coach middle school football. I mentioned that I've got kids who can't speak English to play for them. What we do is we take a kid that is bilingual and has them help them. Can we put together some sort of incentivized tutoring program to get the students, to help their fellow students get better at the tests that they need to take and things of that nature? And I'm talking other bilingual students that can do that. Because we can't hire enough bilingual teachers to accommodate all the students that we have in their English learning. So that's all I got to say.
Mr. Henderson. Just a point of clarification, the American Recovery Plan ESSER 3 grant was in fact submitted at the end of February. The American Recovery Plan ESSER 3 grant was submitted end of February.
Then why did you say that it was submitted before the results of the testing come back? Because I asked other people who were at that meeting, did I hear that right? And they all said that I did, that you said that it was submitted before the results of the survey were received back. And I don't know if that was based on, hey, there's a deadline, I've got to get it out there, I can't wait for the survey, but that's what you said, that's what I heard, that's what many other people heard.
Well, I mean, that's point of fact, it was submitted at the end of February. So I'm not sure what you're referring to, but I can give you a timeline. So a survey went to the administration on 1/27/22. Information given to the board 1/18/22. Survey results shared 2/7/22.
My notes are
Information
from the January school board.
Information to community 1/28/22. Received results 2/7/22. That would have been the survey that went out. And the grant was submitted 2/18/22. It came back for revisions. It was submitted between 2/18 and the end of February.
January school board meeting, you said the application had already been submitted. That's how I know February is not the date, because that's the meeting I'm talking about. That's what my notes are from. It's from that January school board meeting.
There could have been a statement like that. I'm not going to verify that. What I am going to say is there were 3 separate grants, ESSER 1, ESSER 2, and ESSER 3. The question may have been posed about ESSER 1 or 2, which have already been submitted. But I would only say we submitted the ESSER 3 grant if indeed we submitted it. And we did not until 2/18. It was going to be back for revisions and submitted at the end of February.
Is the results of the survey and ultimately the application as submitted public information and available? I'm curious as to what the parents said and what you guys actually did, is what I'm curious about.
Yes, it is.
I think one of the issues is that the ESSER plan specifically states that we should get stakeholder input on the plan.
I understand it wasn't a binding survey. I understand it wasn't binding, but I'm curious to see the disparity between.
The input on the spending of the funds, not on the plan itself. And I think that is.
No, I understand that. As part of the application, Superintendent Wood said that an allocation of spend was sent as part of the application. I'd be curious to see how much of a gap or difference there is between the parent survey and what was actually submitted.
Right, but there was no parent input on that plan. I think that's important.
The plan. I'm speaking specifically to the survey that we all know.
For your request.
Let's just calm down a little bit. We're not gonna, it's not gonna, you can sit down, man.
No,
You're not gonna be able to speak.
He is lying, straight up lying, because guess what?
That's
Why
not how
did
this
we
is gonna
have
work
to
tonight. I
vote
will
in
turn this
December
meeting.
on the health and safety plan? Because the health and safety plan is part of ESSER 3, not 1 or 2, only 3.
Don't adjourn.
Don't sit there and lie to the people.
Thank you very much. Very good. Robert Williams.
I'm a drug safety scientist. I work for a large pharma in Pennsylvania on antibodies, which are popular now in used because of the virus. My wife and I moved our family to Oxford about 15 years ago. We have 4 children, two of which graduated from high school, and our youngest is in 2nd grade here. So in a small county just outside of Tampa, a very anti-mask restaurant owner was actually offering free grilled cheese sandwiches to anyone entering the place that would not wear a mask, feeling that health mandates were just a hoax. This owner sounds like someone that could be living right here in Oxford. Or maybe someone sitting right here on the board. So what if I told you that this restaurant owner was from 1918? Who didn't take the Spanish flu pandemic serious? The same flu outbreak that killed over 50 million people, of which 675,000 were Americans here in the U.S. Those anti-mask people from 1918, they look like absolute clowns today in the lens of history. Because of all the deaths that occurred, Mr. Sherman, my friends on the board, my friends in the audience, how will we look in history? It was Ida B. Wells that said, the way to right wrongs is to turn the light of truth upon them. So I have to be honest, I stopped going to these meetings because I felt they had become way too toxic for my liking. But recently my wife talked me into coming back. My first meeting back, I made the error of reminding the lady next to me that the CDC was not evil. And I actually send data to them every day. And she went on to curse me out. I mean, really cursed me out. I had to look up the words she was calling me on my smartphone. It was John Locke that said, parents wonder why the streams are bitter when they themselves have poisoned the fountain. When they themselves have poisoned the fountain. Hearing my angry friends that cursed me out, and the people around her repeating the same crazy things, but then also hearing the passion from people standing up for the young people without a voice here, I began to think about the great Charles Dickens story, A Tale of Two Cities. It was the best of times, it was the worst of times. It was the age of wisdom, it was the age of foolishness. It was the season of light, it was the season of darkness, it was the spring of hope. Hope, Mr. Chairman, my friends on the board, hope is king. Will we be the city in the age of right-wing media talking points of hating science and facts, repeating nonsense that the CDC and George Soros are trying to steal our kids? Or will we be the city that will embrace science, embrace facts, embrace safety, embrace making sure our kids are safe? Dr. King said, we must use our time wisely and acknowledge that the time is always running away. So, Mr. Chairman, my friend on the board, how will you use your time? I will finish with this, Mr. Chairman, and my friends on the board. There are people here that come to these meetings and are addicted to their 5 minutes of fame. They speak absolutely crazy non-facts, doing crazy stunts like serving people on the board with paper. To those people, I say, shame on you.
1 minute.
Shame on you. What we say and do are like seeds that will either inspire the light in our children to do great things, or it will inspire the darkness in our children to hate. Our friends in the audience here, we must be better than the foolish people that come here every meeting with their 5 minutes of fame talking nonsense. Let's all be better than them. Let's all be better than them. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and my friends on the board for giving me these 5 minutes to speak. Thank you.
I can't read the writing. Toledo is the last name.
I thought I was right there. I need to look at their name, so I don't know why they're not. Meaning the first one that we're going to use on.
graduate from Oxford Edbridge Elementary Schools. So I write a letter for the board, and it's in Spanish. My English is not really good, but I will try to read in Spanish and not translate for us. Como padre de familia de un estudiante de la escuela de Oxford, quiero expresar mi sentir hacia los comentarios que afectan la estabilidad emocional de los estudiantes en cualquier parte del país e incluso del mundo.
As a parent, I want to express my concerns of comments that affect the emotional stability of the students in any part of the country and even in any part of the world.
Como educadores nos corresponde dar un ejemplo de equidad e igualdad sin importar nuestras raíces e incluso nuestra forma de vida.
As educators, we are responsible to be the examples of equity regardless of our race or skin color.
La educación viene desde casa y es allí donde formamos doctores, maestros e incluso el próximo presidente. Una educación exitosa.
Education comes from home, and there we create doctors, teachers, and even the next president.
Una educación exitosa se forja desde la base, y si desde la base empieza el clasismo, no tendrás los éxitos que esperas solo porque alguien no es del color que tú eres.
A successful education comes from a base, and if classism starts as a base, our children won't be successful only because someone doesn't look like you or is the color of your skin.
Para los estudiantes somos un ejemplo a seguir, y si le enseñas que el odio y la discriminación son normales, estás educando de una manera errónea.
For students, we are an example to follow, and if you teach them hate and discrimination, you are teaching them something wrong.
Me preocupa que alguien tome las decisiones que afectan el futuro de mi hijo. No es un drama, es una realidad de nuestros días. El suicidio, el racismo y el clasismo existen.
I am worried that someone who takes decisions affects the future of my child. We know it to be a reality these days that there are suicides, racism, and classism, and we see them in our school districts.
Lo vemos en las bases de los distritos escolares. No quiero que alguien con esa mentalidad de ser el futuro de la educación de mi hijo y de los demás estudiantes.
I don't want someone who is racist and classist to decide the future of my child and our students.
Pensemos un poco en que si continúa de esta forma y que no se haga nada, ¿qué pasará con los hijos de las personas inmigrantes y las personas de color? ¿Es acaso que les darán clases afuera de las aulas o en el piso de la escuela?
Let's think for a moment of if the things continue as they are now, then nothing changes. What will happen to the children of immigrants and students of color? Will you give them classes outside of the classroom or even on the floor in a hallway?
Como reflexión, solo quiero agregar una cosa.
As I continue to reflect, I just want to add one more thing.
Vemos la realidad. Tenemos que parar esa división entre razas, culturas y países. El mundo necesita humanidad, respeto y sobre todo derecho a la educación.
We must stop this division between cultures, races, and countries. The world needs humanity, respect, and overall the right to an education, regardless of the country of origin.
Debería ser un derecho universal y quitar a quienes opinen lo contrario. Se venden armas, drogas y demás cosas ilegales, pero no puedes tener derecho a la educación porque no naciste en el mismo país.
1 minute.
It should be a universal right and remove anyone who opposes this. If we can sell guns, drugs, and other illegal things, but our children cannot receive an education because they are not born in this country.
Quiero agregar una cosa más. Yo soy presidente de una organización, se llama Kenneth Multimedia, y estamos tratando de traer a las comunidades juntas, a las personas que hablan inglés, creamos contenido para que la gente en español pueda entender de todos estos servicios.
I just want to add that I am the president of an organization called Kenneth Multimedia, and the mission of this organization is precisely to eliminate barriers and to bring communities together.
Una última cosa, también yo soy profesor de computación y no importa de dónde vienes, simplemente la educación es lo que hace fuerte a un país y a la humanidad.
And lastly, I'm also a computer teacher, and to me it doesn't matter where an individual comes from. What's important is that they receive an education.
Thank you, Mr. Carino. Christina Stephen.
My name is Christina Stephen. I'm a resident of Upper Oxford Township, and I've lived here since 2005. Both of my children graduated from Oxford. The bylaws of this board in regards to code of conduct were adopted in 2006. They have not been reported as being updated since. I think it's time that that changes. A photo meme Mike Blessington posted to his social media account shows Kyle Rittenhouse seated behind a sign which reads, "My 3 shots were more effective than Fauci's." Kyle Rittenhouse was a 17-year-old child when he shot and killed 2 men and injured a 3rd. Mr. Blessington's comment above this meme reads, "Thank you, sir," to a 17-year-old child. Think about that. This man serves on our school board. Mike Blessington posted a meme saying July is hashtag White Pride Month. Celebrate the beauty of our race. His comment above this meme reads, "Unless you hang out in the sun all weekend." Mr. Blessington's social media accounts repeatedly refer to the COVID-19 virus as the China flu. How he, especially, can condone such divisive language at a time when ethnically Asian people in this country are being targeted by hate crimes boggles the intelligent mind. His social media, further, spends time defending the innocence of accused proponents of white supremacy, while at the same time stating that such an institution does not exist. And yet, we are expected to trust this man with the interests of the minority children in our district. Responding to a U.S. Senator's tweet calling for aid during the height of the pandemic, Mike Blessington tweeted, "The garbage workers who pick up my freaking trash risk their lives more than any teacher does." This man is helping to decide the health and safety plans for the district's children and teachers. It's time to raise our standards for Oxford. The children, teachers, and this community deserve better, and voters, we need to do better. And Mr. Blessington, this is my call for you to resign.
My name is Meg Street. I live in the Oxford borough with 3 children, one of which is in 2nd grade. At the last meeting, we heard from Mrs. Keys mentioning that we answered her call to be more involved in these meetings. To actually take credit for parents' involvement is ridiculous. I cannot speak for everyone, but I've always been involved since my son joined this district recently. Luckily, we live in a world of technology where we can watch meetings from our home. I come to meetings in person when I leave the board to hear my voice in person at the present moment. I was at the meeting prior to school starting when I wanted to hear the board to hear my suggestions on the school's reopening, and I'm here now since Mrs. Key's words, like many others, have made it very clear what her intentions as a board member were. I am my children's biggest role model, and I want my children to know to speak up when they believe in something. To be fair, I knew it when I saw her campaign booth with the sign, "Against CRT, vote Keys." Her words last week were disappointing to say the least. To say that she wishes we could forgive while continually dancing around the issue rather than facing it head on is unacceptable. It is very clear with her words on the radio show with Chris Steigel and the fact that she has never once said that she's actually sorry for what she said about those people. What did she say? Is showing the community that she is not fit to make any decisions for the children of Oxford School District. The fact that she comes to meetings constantly unprepared and uses the excuse that she's a new board member is holding up meetings from getting real work done for her kids. If I have time to read a 12-page document that was released in June, months prior to her election, and so did she. She had to abstain from voting because she did not have all the information, she says. It isn't just her clear bias against immigrant children that worries me, it's her constant lack of accountability and knowledge of what a school board member entails. I do not believe she is fit in this position. The last thing I'll say, because I added this, because I've been hearing what you guys have been saying, is that I think it's imperative that we keep schools a safe place for LGBTQ plus persons, simply because it's very clear that some parents are against this way of life. We should talk to our kids. The kids are actually killing themselves over not being able to come out to their parents because of this exact fear mongering. If your child is confused, find them resources that will be helpful if you can't help them. Love your kids no matter who they love. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Jessica Bird and I live in Upper Oxford. I'm a 17-year resident and a 2013 alumni of Oxford. Until this year, I hadn't attended any school board meetings. That was because I trusted the board. And I didn't feel the need to supervise your every move. That's no longer the case. That's because several members of the board have made it incredibly clear that the children of this community are no longer your priority. So here I am, and I'll be here for every meeting whenever I can until I feel confident that I can trust the board again. Your responsibility on the school board is to put children first. The education of the community's children as well as their safety. I think your continued additions to the wording of the health and safety plan will prevent you from putting the children of the community's safety first. I work in healthcare in Chester County and in the surrounding counties, and I have seen the real impact of infectious disease policies, the good and the bad. I believe that your additions to many of the safety plan outline points are a mistake that will not best serve the children in this community. I believe you're doing the community, especially the children of this community, a disservice with the addition of the phrase as pertains to COVID within all the policies. COVID is not an isolated incident. While it may be the worst infectious disease crisis we've had in years, it's not the first, and experts agree that it will not be the last. These policies should pertain to any major infectious disease outbreak, not just COVID. The rejection of the ability to host vaccine clinics on school property is in direct opposition to serving the children of the community. According to the Pediatric Medical Journal, schools have been a hub of community health and safety for over a century. For many of our disadvantaged students, simply handing out information on vaccine resources will not be enough. Many students rely on the existing vaccine clinics, like the animal flu clinic, as their only way of getting vaccines. Hosting a vaccine clinic doesn't mean that our students are automatically required to get vaccinated. Parental consent is still required. But for many of these students, it may be the only way that they can get vaccinated. You need to think very carefully about the changes that you're making. Are those changes being made to match your own personal and political beliefs? Or are they being made in order to serve all the students in the community, including the ones whose opinions do not match your own? The sample plan that was introduced to you was put together by a committee of experts in the field of public health, people who know what they're talking about and how best to serve the public, and who likely worked for months to make sure that they had covered all the necessary basics. I would really like to know what each of your qualifications are that you feel it acceptable to make drastic changes to affect the execution of the safety measures within the public health document put before you. Do not forget that you are elected officials. You work for me, you work for the children of the community, and you work for every single person in this room. We voted you in. When you sit on the board, you're a representative of the community that elected you. You were chosen to represent our concerns and needs within the district. Your personal and political beliefs have no business being mentioned when you sit in those seats or when you conduct board duties. At least one of you has recently been asked to resign by the community that chose to elect you and has refused. If you continue to insert your political beliefs into decisions that will affect the children of this community, hear me when I say that I will do everything that we can to make sure that you never get voted in again. Let's talk about progress and unity.
I love Oxford. I've loved it since I was a kid, and I moved here in 2005, but it's far from perfect. Oxford, for as long as I can remember, has been a place of quiet racism. Racism is an ugly word, but it's also something that I have had personal experience with since I was a child. Racism doesn't always look like what we see on the news. Racism can be quieter. Racism can be backhanded comments about skin color, hair, and accents, all delivered with a smile on their face, a half-assed apology typed in the social media after the fact, or guest spot on a notoriously right-wing podcast. That's the Oxford that I grew up in. The racism here is getting louder. The fact that supposed leaders of the community find it acceptable to post about it on their public social media accounts is proof that it is. I had hoped that in the 9 years since my graduation, things would have gotten better, but unfortunately that doesn't seem to be the case. Mrs. Key's statements about immigrant children, her continued nitpicking about policies pertaining to homeless students, Mr. Blessington's inattentiveness when people whose opinions that don't match his own are speaking are blatant bias and bigotry. I'll continue to hold you all accountable for the duties laid out before you when you were voted in and took office. Now,
My name is Nikki Bolger. I'm the resident of Lower Oxford and a parent of a kindergarten student. I was not planning to speak tonight. However, around lunchtime today, Michael Blessington responded to my email that I had sent to the board of Mr. Woods. In his reply, he stated, and I quote, "The only hate I hear is coming from you," end quote. However, Mr. Blessington has posted plenty of hate on his public social media. I have emailed some of this to the board, and I'd like to ask that that email, including all the screenshots, gets added to the minutes. He replied again to my email, stating, and I quote, "That's not hate sugar cherry picker," and again, "not hate there," end quote. And then he sent a couple more additional emails every time I forwarded on his responses to the board, just for their records. He stated that your opinion of me is none of my business and I have none for you, end quote. He also followed up with an additional email to tell me to get a life and that this was not worth a fight at the school board meeting. My 6-year-old has more compassion and maturity than Mr. Blessington. As an elected official, Blessington is a disgrace. These posts are public for our students to see, so it is very relevant. So here are a few examples of what he has posted on his public social media, and the community can decide. Some of these have already been mentioned, and I'm going to mention them again. He posted, "Bus all the illegal immigrants and children right to Delaware, DC, Chicago, and California." Replying to a tweet that stated that a disproportionate burden of student debt falls on Black borrowers, Blessington replied, "You don't lend money to a person who can't afford it." He posted, "The infection rate goes up as illegal immigrants cross our borders." He posted, "How is an illegal immigrant ever essential while Americans are sent home from work?" He posted about July being White Pride Month. He posted repeatedly and has publicly referred to COVID as the China flu. He posted, "I am running for a position in the Oxford Area School Board in Pennsylvania to stop CRT and other liberal agendas." He posted, and I quote, "The garbage workers who pick my freaking trash risk their lives more than any teacher does," end quote. I would like to personally thank every single teacher in Oxford Area School District in Pennsylvania and in this country for their hard work. COVID alone did and still does put them at risk, as does all of the other germs that our children share with them at school, as does this nation's very serious issue with violence and school shootings. I am not a teacher, but I would imagine that their safety and the safety of their students is always one of the top things on their mind. I would also like to thank our school police officers that not only keep our schools safe, but are a friendly face that our students seek each day. I would argue that Mr. Blessington has no idea what it is like to be a teacher, and every board member should appreciate our teachers and understand what their job entails, and the risks that they take daily by just showing up to a school. I would suggest that this board member spend some time in our schools to see firsthand what hard What of our job teaching is? However, I frankly don't want this man around our students. It does not surprise me that the man who could not even educate himself on how many schools we have or the proper names of those schools also is speaking badly about teachers. This school can't function without our teachers, so I would suggest Mr. Blessington stop insulting them. Mr. Blessington rarely speaks up. Often it looks like he's falling asleep sitting out there. The community has noticed he appears not to want to be here. Masks are no longer required. The COVID vaccine is not required. And CRT is not being taught. So if any of the board members were only here to stop those issues and have no other interest in being on the board, then step down and resign. Every single board member should be focused on our children and our staff. If that is not your focus, then resign now. Jennifer Case and Michael Blessington have shown that our children are not their first priority. I would like to ask them both to resign now.
I'm Sarah Thomas. Thanks for letting me speak tonight. I'm from Oxford River West. I have a lot to say about Ms. Case and her remarks about how excited she was to have all of these people here. But honestly, anyone else before me has kind of said it more eloquently than I already had written down. But I would like to just reiterate that I've been very actively involved in my children's education in ways that are far more better uses of my time than this is, by a lot. In their classrooms with proper volunteer appearances, by the way. So, just that. I'm going to take a step back for a second and just say that anyone who's been concerned about test scores could have come to the vigil tonight that we had regarding the recent lawsuit and learned a little bit more about the funding in this state and its impact on our test scores. But I didn't see very many people there, so, you know. I'd like to get back to this case and the part about her radicalized politics that enables other people to be hateful as well, because that's what really concerns me. And that's what is absolutely wild about these meetings, like beyond belief wild. I'm not going to serve any of you, by the way, because just let's rest assured, you don't need to get your lawyers involved. But you know, on a serious note, like it's super concerning because when people openly say the quiet parts out loud and let their hate shine, it enables and emboldens other people to do so. So we have people on QAnon websites figuring out how to serve the school board and then doing it multiple times over and over, which is a waste of time because it's ridiculous. But it just continues to embolden people to be more hateful, which is just disgusting, frankly. We can get back to what I had planned to say. Hate, fear, and delusion are powerful tools, and having people on our school board that proudly display their hate empowers other people to do the same thing, which creates a catastrophic domino effect that's not only detrimental to society, but harms our children. Voltaire said once that those who make believe absurdities can make you commit atrocities, and that's true. There's no room for absurdities, and there's no room for radicalized political agendas here. I also want to say that I know Ms. Case mentioned that she's proud of forgiveness is her greatest strength, which is great. That's something that I'd love for you in your personal life. On this school board, I'm hoping you find some new strengths, perhaps, in holding yourself accountable for your words and your actions.
Address the chair.
I'm hoping that Ms. Case holds herself accountable for her words and her actions on the school board. And I'm hoping that she finds the greatest strength of all in finding what is right for our students and resigning. And Mr. Blessington may be listening. Thank you.
Personnel, Mr. Woods.
Thank you. I'd like to recommend the attached list of professional personnel.
Can I have a motion to approve the attached list of professional personnel?
Motion.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Opposed? Non-professional, Mr. Woods.
Thank you. I'd like to recommend the attached list of non-professional personnel.
Do I have a motion to approve the attached list of non-professional personnel? Second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Volunteers, Mr. Woods.
Recommend the attached list of volunteers.
Do I have a motion to approve the attached list of volunteers?
Motion.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Opposed? Consent agenda. Be it resolved that the Oxford Area Board of School Directors hereby approves the following consent agenda items. Number 1, Section 1302 students. Students named on the attached list be considered a resident of the school district for the 2021-22 school year. In accordance with Section 1302 of the Public School Code, CCIU budgets approval of the 22-23 Chester County Intermediate Unit 4 Occupational Education and Categorical budgets. Chester County Tax Collection Delegates. Appointment of the Chester County Tax Collections District Delegates as follows. Primary voting delegate, Brian Cooney. Secondary voting delegate, Yvette Schaefer, alternate voting delegate, Lisa Carroll. Settlement agreements. Approval of the attached settlement agreement regarding student ID ending in 1313. Approval of the attached settlement agreement regarding student ID number ending in 6745. Act 80 days. Approval of the addition of 2 Act 80 days to the 21-22 calendar on May 13th and May 20th, 2022. Uncollectible tax liens. Approval to exonerate any uncollectible real estate property tax liens detailed on the attached. CCIU policy and procedure adoption. Adoption of the Chester County Intermediate Unit's policy and procedures under 34 CFR Part 300. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda? Second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Notice of expulsion. Be it resolved that the Oxford Area Board of School Directors hereby approves the expulsion of student ID number ending in 7615. Do I have a motion? Second. Any discussion?
Just say it's the recommendation of the panel to approve.
Mr. Cooney, can I please have a roll call vote for this?
Sir. Motion by Mr. Tenga, second by Mr. Dave. Roll call, Mr. Blessington.
Aye.
Ms. Dean. Ms. Harrison.
Aye.
Ms. King. Mr. Claus. Renee. Thank you. Patterson. Robinson. Tenga. Motion carries.
Health and safety plan. Be it resolved that the Oxford Area Board of School Directors hereby approves the draft changes in the district health and safety plan template for the ARP, ESSER Fund, American Rescue Plan Elementary and Secondary School Emergency Relief Fund. Do I have a motion? Second. Any discussion?
I just wanted to reiterate that I don't agree with us taking the money in exchange for the freedoms and the rights of our students and our families. I know that we're voting on the wording of this document, but I believe that we should still pull back from this plan. We did not get stakeholder input on the plans, and I think that which is required as part of the plan should have been done.
Any other discussion?
In addition, the other things that are part of this plan include SEL, which is CRT,
public to be aware of that.
Can we get a clarification on that from the board? This information?
Any other discussion?
What was the fine?
Sorry, Mr. Claus, I don't understand the question.
I'm sorry. Ms. Gates said something I didn't hear her.
Could you repeat what you said, Ms. Gates?
Sorry, I said that this plan includes information from the guideline that the funding will be used for SEL, or also known as CRT.
I'm just going to go back to something I said before. You say things like this to create such disruption.
No, she doesn't.
And then you go back and claim this innocence, that you didn't know what it meant, you were doing. And there's this, you become overtly obtuse, and I'm not really sure why you do these things.
I call
We've been
BS.
over this
Shut
many
up.
times, and I agree. Like Mr. Wood said, we follow the full process of this.
Not with my grandchildren. It's not the same.
Anybody in the audience needs to
Was I
talk
talking
about
to you?
that?
But once again, you are planting the seed for more disruption in future meetings, because we finally moved past this, and now you're going to bring up CRT. And then again, the next meeting, because I'm questioning, following Robert's rules, parliamentary procedure, which Ms. Gates, I would advise you to read up on. You do remember the first time when you read this and came to the board, you had wanted to take this offline and go ad hoc with it, which is completely against Robert's rules. But again, you're the one who goes on a public radio show and says, I'm the one who doesn't do my homework.
Mr. Klaus, are you finished?
No. But once again, you're planting the seed for more disruption.
I just want the public to be aware.
There's a vote before the board, a vote of approval on a health and safety plan. Mr. Cooney, would you please do a roll call vote for this?
Certainly, Mr. Blessing.
Aye.
Ms. Dean.
Aye.
Ms. Harrison.
Aye.
Ms. Cave.
I abstain.
Ms. Quad. Mr. Patterson. Mr. Robinson. Mr. Tango. Mr. Ty.
Aye.
Motion carries.
House remains. Following policy, 7,000 series policy number 7320, homeless students. Do I have a motion? Second. Any discussion?
Don't.
I just want to clarify, on the 7320 and the 5100, which is the resident one, the only difference the difference in those two, all individuals are under both categories. However, it's defined as a residence is where they are going to the same home or same location that's considered a home each night, correct? Where the homeless are not considered going to the same residence each evening. Is that my understanding of the two when I look at both of them? When I put them next to each other and I read them both, that seems to be the one distinction, and the only other distinction is the vaccination requirement and paperwork requirement, where the homeless folks that fall underneath that do not have to provide it right away. And the folks that are considered under the resident have to provide it before they can finish the school.
So in essence, yes. The first part of your question, the homeless student may be going back to the same residence every night. They may be classified as homeless wherever they are.
somebody took them in, if there was, for example, fire, they were displaced outside of our district, they may be going to the same place and still be. So, yes, in part, and no in part. Vaccines, yes.
Okay, so just for the resident piece, and the way it read, it said parent, guardian, or courtesan, and then it said the same thing under the other policy as well. And then all the defining individuals were the same that I was saying under both. So my understanding was, and I just want to be clear on this, that if somebody's going to a defined residence, the same one, and not as it was identified, a hotel or a park or somewhere else, then they don't fall under this policy yet. That identified as a homeless in the policy. I want to make sure I'm clear in this, because I think this has a lot to do with everything that's going on too, because the folks that I believe people feel fall under the 7320 really don't. They fall under this policy, the 5100, because there's a resident and there's a guardian.
That part is correct.
Where people are falling, correct?
Yes, yes. Yes, I understand.
Any further discussion? There's a motion on the floor for approval of 7000 series policy number 7320, homeless students. Mr. Cooney, can I please have a roll call vote for this?
Certainly. Mr. Blessing.
Aye.
Ms. Dean. Ms. Harrison.
Aye.
Ms. Carey.
Nay.
Mr. Claus.
Yes.
Mr. Patterson.
Yes.
Mr. Robinson.
Aye.
Mr. Tenga. Mr. Ty.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Policy readoption, Mr. Woods.
Thank you. As you know, we adopt policies, and this policy series was looked at by the policy committee. There were some edits made, minutes in nature for the most part. So the policy committee is recommending the adoption of this policy.
Thank you, Mr. Woods. Do I have a motion to approve readoption of the 5000 series policies 5100, 5110, 5120, 5140, 5160, 5200, 5210, 5300, and 5310? Second? Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Opposed? A copy of these policies is listed is available in the administrative building on 25 Bell Tower Lane, Oxford, PA, for examination and comment. Policies can be viewed on the website at www.oxfordasd.org, but the public is encouraged to stop in and read these policies or visit our website. Closing items, correspondence, Mr. Cooney. Calendar. Any changes to the upcoming calendar for April?
Mr. Ty, yes. Can we add a finance committee meeting on the 19th at 6:30, please? April 9th. Thank you.
Sure. Okay. Tuesday, April 12th, 2022, Facilities and Safety Committee, 6 p.m. Location to be determined. Tuesday, April 12th, 2022, Athletics and Student Activities Committee, 6:15. Tuesday, April 12th, Policy Committee, 6:30. Tuesday, April 12th, Work Session, 7 p.m. Tuesday, April 19th, Finance and Budget Committee, 6:30 p.m. Tuesday, April 19th, regular meeting, 7 p.m. Announcement of an executive session this evening after the Finance and Budget Committee meeting, which will happen right after this meeting, and that's on real estate. Follow-up to community questions and concerns, Mr. Cooney.
Yeah.
I have a motion to adjourn. Second. Meeting's adjourned.